Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick.
I'm Ian.
And today we're going to talk about one of our favorite bands, Green Day. We're going to talk about some of our favorite Green Day albums. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that link down below. Go check out the Vinyl Den Facebook group. It's a cool place to continue the music conversation. There's also a couple other links down there. There's one for the Vinyl Den merch page. We got Vinyl Den t-shirts and sweatshirts on there. There's a link for the Vinyl Den Spotify and Apple Music playlists where every week we're just compiling music we're talking about on the channel, put it together on a nice playlist for everyone to enjoy. There's also a link for the Vinyl Den Patreon page. If you want to support the show, it's always greatly appreciated. You can support the show for as little as $1 a month. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So I've been a big Green Day fan for a long time. Dookie was released in early '94, and it was shortly after that I became a huge fan of them. And been really ever since. I think when Insomniac came out, I kind of fell off a little bit, but I think every album really ever since then I've been a big fan of. It took you a little bit longer to get into the band.
Yeah, it was shortly after probably Nimrod came out, because you were playing it a lot then when Nimrod came out, and that's what got me into them. I mean, I was obviously familiar with them. I liked a couple of their songs, but overall I wasn't sold on them. But then once I got to really hear them
and dug into their music,
it wasn't long after that.
Yeah. So we're going to go over this really in no particular order, but our 5 of our favorite Green Day albums. Like I said, there's no particular order to these. We're going to start out with the first one is an album that Ian's definitely more of a fan of it than I am. It is a good album, but you were the one that grabbed this one. But right. This is Uno. Do you remember what year Uno came out? 2012.
Yeah. And it was a kind of a 3-part thing. It was Uno, Dos, Tres. They did release them separately, but I kind of see them as a single unit.
Yeah.
But if I had to only pick one of the 3, Uno would be the one I'd pick because it's got the most really great songs on it.
And out of the 3, it is my favorite of those.
But I think Dos and Trey have a lot of good songs on them as well. So as a package deal, I like all 3 of them kind of uniquely.
I think there's probably enough songs for me personally on Dos and Trey. If they were combine those 2 albums and cut out some other tracks, I think it would be a better album.
Yeah, instead of doing it as a triple, maybe pull it off as a double album.
Yeah. Of course, the next album, you can't talk about Green Day without bringing this one up. But of course, it is Dookie. It's the album that got me into the band. It was released in February of '94, and it was shortly after this album was released that I got into it. It had to have been sometime in February because their next single, Welcome to Paradise, was released in March. So, and I was already a fan of the album before that. But I had this on cassette, and I wore it out. I mean, I remember that whole year. That's all I listened to was this. Well, album.
And even when I started getting into it, you still had a cassette when I was getting into them because that's how we would listen to them in your car.
Yeah.
Before you got a CD player in your car.
Yeah. But as far as that early Green Day period is just so great, and I think it's I don't want to say that they sold out or they became commercialized or whatever, but I think their sound definitely changed after Dookie. And I think they did it intentionally. They wanted to grow as musicians. They didn't always want to be the snot-nosed, West Coast punk kids. It was but I think this was the end of that great early kind of punk period from Green Day.
Yeah, and that's it. It connects to Kerplunk and that early work quite well. But it also connects to the next level.
Yes.
It's kind of a middle ground, transitional album.
Yeah. So Insomniac was released after Dookie. And like I said, that was kind of the album where I kind of fell off. It's not that I'm not a fan of Insomniac. I think my interest started pulling in other directions. I started getting more into Rancid and some other kind of bands of that genre. And it was really until Nimrod came out that I really kind of got back into the band. And so when this was released, around that time, every Saturday night that we would go down. We would go down to University of Michigan's campus and walk around, and there was a Borders on campus down there. And it was a big, huge store that we would go into. I just kind of browse for music and movies. And they had a listing station set up after Nimrod was released. And I sat down, and that was the first time I listened to anything off of that album. And I was instantly hooked. Because it is a fantastic album. It's definitely one of my top, 2, maybe 3 albums from the band.
I could argue for myself that it's probably my favorite Green Day album.
There's not a bad track on this album.
No, not at all. I mean, obviously, there's albums that are just as good, but I mean, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to pick a favorite, it would probably be Nimrod.
Yeah. I know we already kind of mentioned it, but it's an album that I really love by this band. And, it's kind of like Nimrod for you. If I really had to pick my favorite Green Day album, it's probably Kerplunk. And it's, Kerplunk is just it's like I said, it's just a kind of different raw kind of Green Day, a little more of a punk edge. There's a lot of more grittiness to the tracks on this. And Ian, do you know you remember what the funny thing is about this?
Is it the fact that I melted the cassette version of yours?
So
strictly by accident.
Yeah, it was a hot summer day. I had this on cassette, and we were listening to it in my car, and Ian left it up on the dashboard.
Yeah.
And the sun actually melted the thing. And so Ian had to buy me a new copy of it.
Which I bought him on CD.
Yes, that was I had started getting into CDs at that time. Finally, I was a late bloomer when it came to CDs. But Kerplunk, if you haven't listened to it, if all you know is like Dookie and On from Green Day, definitely go back and listen to Kerplunk, because it is like I said, it's just a great album, and it's definitely a different kind of Green Day.
And it's kind of a snapshot of a Green Day too.
Yeah.
It's the first album that Trey played on.
Yeah.
But it kind of encapsulates Green Day at that moment, right before stardom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely check this out.
And for the last one, it kind of goes along the same lines as Dookie. You really can't talk about Green Day without talking about American Idiot. It's probably I'm sure it's their most successful commercial album. Yeah. And probably one of the most successful albums of the 2000s. I think it really changed. I think it kind of changed, almost in a kind of a bad way, the band. Because I felt like ever since they released American Idiot, they've been trying to chase that same success.
Perhaps. I mean, American Idiot's a concept album, and their next album was a concept album, so it's, they were definitely experimenting, and from American Idiot being so successful, I think they didn't experiment enough going forward. But if you listen to Uno Dos Tres, it's taking some of the elements that are good about this and mixing them with some of the elements that are good with their older stuff.
Yeah.
Going forward, though, with like Revolution Radio, I think that's more an element of the time rather than what they're gauging. But it is true that the band kind of changed with this album for sure. Yeah,
they became one of the biggest bands in the world because of this album.
And I love this album.
It is a great album. Absolutely. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah,
it's one of our favorites.
If gun to head, second favorite Green Day album for sure.
Well, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Drop us a comment down below. Let us know what some of your favorite Green Day albums are, because I'm sure there's some overlap here with some of the ones we talked about. But let us know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.